It's nighttime. You're home alone and you hear a knock at the door. You look through the peephole and see two children standing there, both with one eye covered by a black cloth. They ask to come inside and use your phone, but when you open the door, they disappear. When you check outside, you see that the street is empty. If this happened to you, would you be scared? Probably. It might not just be your imagination or sleep deprivation playing tricks on you. The strange sight of children with one black eye has been reported numerous times in various places around the world. And we want to tell you about some of the most creepy, real sightings that have been well documented. But before we get started, make sure to hit that like button for more videos. Also, stick around until the end to hear about the mysterious warning many of these witnesses received. First, we have to talk about the origin story of the black-eyed children. In 2004, a man named Brian Bethel was working security at the Alton Towers amusement park in the UK. One night, he heard screams from one of the park's haunted houses. When he went to investigate, he saw two children standing in the shadows. Their eyes were completely black and soulless. He tried to speak to them, but they just stared at him. When he got closer, he could smell a terrible stench coming from them. Eventually, the children spoke. They asked him if they could use his radio to call their mother, who was supposedly waiting for them outside the park. Brian was hesitant, but eventually relented and allowed the kids to use the radio. But when he turned it over to the children, their bodies began to shake violently, and then they disappeared. This incident was later recounted by Brian himself as well as other security guards who claimed to have witnessed similar encounters with the same children. They claimed that the incident took place over several nights and that the pair had somehow found their way into the park's restricted staff area. The strange thing was that nobody ever saw the children during the day. It was always nighttime. Even stranger, the local police had no record of missing children or any reports of any kind. Brian and the other security guards were never able to find out what happened to the kids or where they came from. But after hearing other stories that have come to light since then, they believe the pair may have been interdimensional travelers or something worse. Next, we have to look at the case of the hitchhiker. In 2013, a woman known only as Alex drove her car along a deserted country road. As she rounded a bend, she saw a young girl walking along the side of the highway. She pulled over to give the girl a lift, but when she did, she noticed that the child's face was pale and dry and that she had no eyelashes or eyebrows. When she looked closer, she realized that one of the girl's eyes was completely black. Although she was scared, Alex let the girl ride with her until she reached a town where she could flag down another vehicle. When the girl got out, she thanked Alex for the ride and vanished. Alex immediately called the police, but they told her that there were no reports of a missing child. And when she described what she had seen, they basically told her that she was crazy. In another case, a man named Victor was driving home late one night when he spotted a boy standing at the edge of a road. He stopped to offer the kid a lift, but when he did, he noticed that the boy had no eyelids or eyelashes and one jet black eye. Victor instinctively slammed on the accelerator, but before he could drive away, the boy opened the passenger door and climbed inside. As soon as he was in the car, his appearance changed dramatically. His skin turned green and his teeth grew long and sharp. The boy then lunged at Victor's throat, but he was able to fight him off. He crashed the car into a ditch and ran away as fast as he could. When he looked back, he saw that the boy was gone and his car was smoking, but undamaged. Next, we have to look at the case of the house in the woods. A couple from Texas was hiking in the woods near their home one night when they heard a knock. When they stopped to listen, they heard it again. Someone was knocking on a tree. At first, they thought it was a bird, but when they investigated, they found a young boy standing in front of the tree. He had a patch over one of his eyes, and when he knocked on the tree, it made a hollow sound. The couple asked the boy what he was doing there, but he didn't answer. Instead, he gestured to the tree and then looked at the ground. After a few moments, the couple noticed that the grass around the tree was completely dead, and there was a small divot in the dirt at its base. It looked as though someone had been digging a grave. When they told the boy they wanted to leave, he reached out and grabbed the woman's hand. She instinctively pulled away, but the boy's grip was surprisingly strong. He dragged her toward the tree and motioned for her to look inside the hollow. She screamed and pulled her hand away. When she turned to run, she tripped and fell. When she looked up, she saw the boy standing over her with his hand raised. His face was expressionless and his one visible eye glowed red. She ran as fast as she could, but she could hear the boy close behind her. She eventually made it home and locked herself inside. When she looked out the window, she saw the boy standing on her lawn. He was looking up at the moon, and she could swear he was smiling. In another case, a woman named Sarah was babysitting her niece and nephew when she heard a knock at the door. She told the children to stay away from the door, but they ignored her and went to investigate. When she got to the door, she saw two children standing on her doorstep. They were identical except for the fact that one had a black covering over one eye. Sarah immediately slammed the door shut and locked it. When she looked through the peephole, the children were gone. She checked the security cameras and saw that one of the children had knocked on the door with a wooden hammer, which had broken the doorbell and deactivated the cameras. When she called the police, they told her to be more careful in the future because it was obviously just some kids playing a prank. But later that night, Sarah heard scratching at her window. When she turned on the light, she saw that one of the children was standing there. He was holding a nail in his hand, and he was using it to scratch at the glass. When he saw her, he smiled and mouthed the words, "Let me in." Sarah screamed and backed away. The boy suddenly vanished. She called the police again, but they didn't take her seriously. In fact, they arrested her for filing a false police report. She was then charged with child neglect for leaving her niece and nephew alone while she investigated the noise. As she sat in jail cell, she watched as the police drove her niece and nephew away in an ambulance. She didn't know it at the time, but the children had been taken away for their own protection. Sarah had actually witnessed the infamous black-eyed children, and the police had finally realized that she wasn't making it all up. Many people have witnessed the black-eyed children, but almost all of them have the same story to tell. They usually appear at night and ask to come inside and use a phone or computer. Sometimes they even ask for food or water. However, when the adults turn away, they vanish. When they turn back, the children are still there, staring at them with their soulless eyes. These are just a few of the many cases that have been well documented. There are hundreds more just like it. But there is one thing that all these stories have in common. The vast majority of witnesses receive the same cryptic warning. If you let them in, they will kill everyone in your family and then take over your home. Most people just ignore the warning and let the children in anyway. And every single time, horrible things happen. Their families are killed and they take over their homes. But you won't hear about these stories from the news. That's because the truth is almost always hidden from the public. And that's why.